Excellencies, Minister Alexander, Senator Ruth, and members of Parliament, members of Provincial Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. And to Danny, I say shukran jazilan, to him and the organizers for inviting us, and I say to all of you, sharaftuna. And just in case you think I've exhausted my Arabic, which I'm pretty close to, before I came up, I was speaking to Raja. I said, well, Raja, what other words should I master? And he said, well, what about Rais? And I said, Rais? Rais? That's what I had to call Mubarak when I met him in Egypt. And he said, but I'm the president, you can call me that. So I say to you, Rais, you're my president, I respect you, and I'm here. Thank you for inviting me tonight. It's a real privilege to be included in the beginning of an initiative that has the potential of playing such an important role in our national life. Not only by making Canada a stronger country, but by enabling us to reach out and make a positive contribution in our relations throughout the Arab world. Raja spoke this evening and asked for a voice. I think the presence tonight of politicians from all major parties is testimony to that. When you think, ladies and gentlemen, that the average Canadian's view of what is taking place in is what today called the Arab world is one of conflict. It took the Arab community to bring the warring tribes of the Conservatives, the NDP, and the Liberals together here with you tonight. So I say to you, Mabruk for that. So, when I had the privilege of being the Member of Parliament for Toronto Centre, I witnessed firsthand how organizations of immigrant communities from all over the world could make a real contribution to our society by bringing people together, by building on their common heritage, their strengths, enabling them to become meaningful Canadian citizens. My wife and I used to work a lot together there. We spent so many times together with people that had come from other countries, and we became members of their family. That is what Canada is about. This country is the result of bringing together the strands from around the globe which have been woven together to make this Canadian fabric, this Canadian mosaic. And the stronger that every one of those threads are, is the stronger that the fabric as the whole is. And this is a strong thread of the Arab community in Canada today that we are celebrating. The Right Honourable Adrienne Clarkson is here tonight with us, with her husband John Ralston Saul. If I may be informal and call her Adrienne, Adrienne came here as a refugee. She can speak to her about the importance of advancing Canadian citizenship. She has an innate sense of what a contribution different cultures have made to making Canada the uniquely 21st century it is. Their presence is testimony to the importance, like that of many other Canadians, of this Institute's objectives, cultivating the human capital in the Arab community to advance and promote its contributions to society, fostering awareness and understanding between Canadian society and Arab cultures, increasing awareness of Canadian policymakers and others, of how Canadians of Arab heritage see their contribution to Canada's national interest and economic prosperity. All of these factors, which I cite from the origins of this institute, will enrich our collective citizenship and strengthen our country, both nationally and internationally. The Arab community in Canada brings such a rich texture to our country. Its diverse origins from many nations, from many faiths, make it an important part of what modern Canada is, a place where all faiths and peoples and nationalities can come together in a way that enriches us all. It would be foolish to pretend that integration in Canada has always been an easy process in the past or will be in the future. As Raja pointed out in his excellent piece in the Globe this morning, 69% of Quebecers have an unfavorable view of Islam. This is a very concerning statistic. This is not a statistic that is of concern to the Canadian Arab community. This is a statistic that is a concern of every single one of us that are Canadians who want to build a better country. And we have to face that. But earlier waves of immigrants have met resistance. My wife is Irish. When we have the occasional dispute, they're rare because I recognize I lose all of them. But when we do, I can occasionally remind her that 100 years ago, the shops in Toronto said, no Irish need apply. So other waves of immigrants, other peoples have met their problems. Others have been able to overcome the misunderstandings and cultural differences that can only be overcome by mutual respect and empathy, something that this institute can do by providing its members with pride in their great traditions and cultural origins, and other Canadians with a better understanding of why those origins, those faiths, that culture is a source of strength for all Canadians as we build a country that is truly global in its makeup and outlook. And I dare say that the role for this institute is more important today than ever. Today, when conflicts from outside Canada threaten to bring their sectarian or national differences into this country, when many Canadians react with fear and distrust engendered by events from far from here, but from which are all too close to those in this room or in Canadian Arab communities who see the lives of their families and close ones trapped in terrible conditions of violence and social upheaval. Today we watch with concern events in the Middle East, but its future is important to our future. Perhaps in no time in our history has it been important for all Canadians who watch violence nightly on their television to know of the great traditions of Arab culture, its science, its learning, its traditions of hospitality and of generosity. It's been my privilege, and Danny mentioned this, during my life to be a witness to Arab culture. As a young student, I traveled through Iraq, Syria, and Jordan, where often my friend and I would be invited into a home, or even occasionally into a tent in the desert to have a meal or stay the night. As a politician, I worked with colleagues in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Syria, or Jordan. One of my proudest friendships I dare to call a friend was King Hussein, who I admired extraordinarily well, and who came to Ottawa and had a great deal of influence about his humanity and his sense of respect for others. It was a great privilege to know a statesman in the Arab world. And we in Canada have had the privilege to do that. And we've had the privilege of serving in that region. Our troops have been there, as Adrian Clarkson could testify to. And our aid programs have been there, as some of the people who are here tonight would know about what the IDRC and other influential groups have done throughout the Arab world. Or we have had students, as Danny said. One of my former students, Danny, maybe a colleague of yours, is Khaled Al-Shaqani. He runs the largest law firm in downtown Cairo. He's an enormous voice for freedom and for what this institute stands for. And when we think of our friends, I look at Muhammad, I see Hind, and we talk to our friends together about what is happening in Syria today. This brings us together. This brings our humanity together. This makes us understand, and I think of myself in my life, how much of my time has been spent in that incredible region, knowing so many amazing people. And to see a group like this tonight, assembled together, a new voice, a new important voice in Canada, in our culture, in our politics, in our society, in our civic voice, it is just, it is extraordinary. And I thank you very much for what you're doing today. So I say to you that today's view of the region is naturally colored by present events. To really understand the potential that's there, let's reflect on the remarkable history of the Arab peoples, of their amazing expansion after the death of the Prophet throughout North Africa and Spain, and the urbane level of civilization they created in science and literature while Europe languished in the Dark Ages. We were just downstairs at the Mesopotamia exhibit. What an extraordinary reach back, 6,000 years before our era. A rich, deep civilization. But as we stood there looking at the cuneiform language and talked about the role of bureaucracy and accountancy in ancient Mesopotamia, Senator Ruth said to me, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if only the Senate had kept their accountants in cuneiform?" You know, I've just finished reading Margaret Macmillan's exceptional book, The War That Ended Peace. Throughout that book, we see the role that European rivalry in the Middle East, the Berlin to Baghdad Railway, oil, etc., contributed to that terrible war and its aftermath. And as the great Indian Muslim scholar, Mr. Akbar, put it recently in a column, in August 1914, we will all be flooded with seminars on the First World War, which changed Syria and the Middle East today into the patterns that continue to provoke war today. The history should teach us some humility and restraint when advocating policies for Canada. It also tells us to heed those voices who have first-hand knowledge of what is taking place there. Voices such as are in this room and the experience that's in this room. I was fortunate to have access to some of those voices when I was working with Mr. Chrétien on our decision not to join our American ally when it invaded Iraq and helped set in train. A decision which I can say, I'm happy to say, enhanced our credibility at home and abroad, but never would have happened if it hadn't been encouraged by the intelligent voices of people such as yourself in this room, because it was not unanimous. There were people who wanted to go to war, and we needed people with a sane understanding of the region and the problems. And I was able to look Colin Powell in the eye when I met with him and said, I have Arab constituents, and I can tell you, if you go into Iraq, this will not be easy. Do not think that Rumsfeld, this is going to be the cakewalk that they're telling you it's going to be. And he admitted that was true, but it was because people like you knew it, because you came from there and were able to advise our politicians. So we have a role. We have a role this community is able to say, inshallah, to other future politicians. Say to those politicians, when you go abroad, take the voice of reason, responsibility, the inspiration of this institute. And when they do that, they'll be able to speak with the knowledge that's been furthered by the work of this institute, this far-sighted initiative we're celebrating tonight. An initiative that will benefit not only Arab Canadians, but all Canadians, as we work together to build a better city, a better province, and this wonderful country that we're privileged to live in. I say, Mabruk lil Kai, Shukran.